points, right? First of all, for some reason, the market seems to be hooked on the fact that you need a 6-7 rupee price increase to compensate for the 15% rally in oil prices that we've seen so far. I mean, if you adjust for the fact that the way you calculate this is the average price. I mean, it's not as if on the 15th, if the price is 100 and 2 weeks back, if the price was, say, 90, it's not 100 divided by 90. I mean, that is not the percentage increase. It's essentially the average of the last fortnight, average of this fortnight, and that is the way the increase itself is calculated for the purpose of compensating OMCs. Then you have the excise element as well, right? Yeah. That is fixed. If you adjust for that, what you need, what oil marketing companies need is about 2 to 3 rupees in terms of price increase, right? Maybe 3 rupees, let's be a little... let's take the upper end of the estimate, is what you need, not 6 rupees. So even if you, it's an important point because stocks were all up and they all sold off on this news. But the fact is, if today evening you get a 2 rupee increase or 2.5 rupee increase, that perfectly compensates for the price increase that we have seen. Now, will the markets react tomorrow morning in that same way? I don't know, because for some reason, the 6 rupee, 7 rupee number is being talked about, that you need a 7 rupee increase for a 15% rally in oil prices that we've seen. So that is point number one. Now let's take a look at this graphic. These are petrol prices. Let's stick with this graphic. And what I've essentially done is looked at petrol price right now. These are Delhi prices. What was the peak price in Delhi? The peak in Delhi was 76 rupees and 10 paise. That was in September of 2013, right? The second row is Brent oil prices right now, 54. Back then, when petrol prices were at 76, Brent was 108. So oil prices, crude oil prices are half of what they were in September 2013. But petrol prices are actually, what, 13% away, right, from the peak price. That is stunning. And the difference is the third row, which is excise. Excise is right now, on what is built in the 66 rupee price is 21.5 rupees you pay as excise. That goes to the government. The peak price is 9.6. At the peak diesel, the peak price of petrol at 76, what was built in was only 10 odd rupees or so. Let's move on to the next graphic, which is diesel. And that will come up on your screen as well. In the case of diesel, the current price is 54.5 liters. Again, I'm looking at Delhi prices. The peak price was 59 rupees a liter. If you can have the graphic up, please. The peak of 59 was made in September of 2014. Again, same comparison, second row. Oil price right now is half of what the oil price was back then. And diesel price, what you pay at the pump, is about 7% away. I mean, so we are paying only 7% below what the peak price of diesel was. And again, I mean, the difference is all excise. 17.5 is what excise is right now. Back then, it was about 3.5 odd rupees. The reason I'm putting these graphics out is because these numbers, I am sure, has brought the government a lot of grief. If we hear today evening that we are essentially going to not take price increases, that will be negative for oil marketing companies, surely, from a market perspective. But you'll be able to explain that away with these numbers, because with demonetization, with the economy seeing the kind of pressures it is seeing, a deferment politically and economically as well would actually make sense. The government, by the way, from taxes on petrol and diesel already collects almost 3 lakh crores, right? So these excise increases have contributed in a large measure to that. So the point I'm making is, if you do not see an increase, I think you could kind of explain that by just looking at these numbers, that you're paying 13% less on petrol, whereas international oil price is half of what it was. And in the case of diesel, you're paying only 7% less than peak, whereas again, I mean, international prices are 50% off. So, I mean, that's a story which we will continue to track.
Yes, absolutely. Interesting, very interesting statistics coming in there, where excise is the main component in terms of the possible parity that you're seeing at this point in time. But